Welcome to NefariousCast.com. I'm Joshua and I'm your host. And tonight we are continuing on with our series on character, and we're going to be touching on the topic of courage. We dealt with courage a little bit last week when we were discussing perseverance, how we persevere and make it through our trials and tribulations each week. And we really kind of touched on it to say that courage is a big part of that in a way. So tonight we're going to take a look at two different definitions. One is going to be Oxford, one is going to be Webster's, and we're going to see what they have to say about it. Then we're going to kind of discuss what type of courage situations we have and what it means to us. So the first one being Webster's, it says mental or moral strength to venture, persevere and withstand danger, fear or difficulty. The Oxford definition says the ability to do something that frightens one, strength in the face of pain or grief. So you have two definitions that are really similar. They're worded differently, but they're meaning is pretty much the same. It's being able to make it through a situation. It's much like perseverance. Having that, in my opinion, they're leaving some of it out, and it's having that. Would it be moral energy or that drive to overcome something that just terrifies you, whether it's say a financial situation that you're dealing with, say it's a new step in your life, a new career. It's being able to take those steps to be able to start the journey and stay on. I think perseverance is the ability to stay on that journey, and courage is more the energy to start it. You really have to show courage when you take a first step in something you're unfamiliar with. And really that's what fear is. It's something that we are unfamiliar with. Sometimes it's something we're very familiar with, but it's very dangerous. But it's dealing with that situation right then and there. It's when you're very first faced with it, and how are you going to overcome it? And that's where you have to have courage. You know, many people, when they're starting out in, say, a new, say there's a situation where you don't agree with people, or you're speaking up like a politician, or maybe even somebody on TV, a newscaster, or maybe even at your job. Excuse me. Take a drink here. Summertime in Colorado, nice and dry. But you're dealing with a situation to where you may be the only person standing up for something, and that takes a lot of courage. We deal with it multiple times in our daily lives. You have to have the courage to stand up for somebody else, stand up for yourself, be the first person to have a new idea that maybe is against the norm. Maybe courage to approach a situation you've never dealt with at all, you know, as a parent, or, you know, if you're a kid, you know, having the courage to go to your parents for something. I mean, it's a range and variety of instances where we have the opportunity for courage each day. And I think that where the definitions kind of touch on it, they leave a lot out, because you have all these different examples of being able to show courage, both minor instances and major ones, that really don't do those definitions justice. So one thing I'm going to say is how do you show courage in your daily life? Do you when you see something that's wrong, or maybe you see somebody that's taking a verbal or mental or beating in some way that they don't justly deserve. Do you have courage and stand up for them, or have the courage to say, hey, take it easy on that person? Or, do you have the courage to even help somebody else have courage to do something? And let's say, like an intervention, you have somebody who is, let's say, a drug addict. You have to have the courage to sit down and have a discussion with them. And sometimes you're familiar with a family that may be going through this, and you're dealing with a person in that family, and they're on the fence about having a discussion with their brother, sister, cousin, mother, father, whatever it is. And do you have the courage to talk to them and say, hey, listen, let's talk about this? And I mean, sometimes just simple conversations can take courage. And I think that we don't really think about that enough each day, to where, are we having the courage to do things, or are we avoiding a lot of different things, situations, conversations, or simply people in our life? So I challenge you this week, really think about courage and what it is. I'll tell you, courage, having the courage to do or say something can be huge. It can be life-saving. I remember a long time ago, probably close to 30 years ago, there was a situation. There were 4 of us who were living in a house. It was the same time I was in the military. Yes, I was in the military at one time, back in the ancient times. We had spears and chariots and all that kind of stuff. But I was fresh out of basic training. I was doing my 1 weekend a month thing, and there was 4 of us who were roommates at a house. Two of us were cousins. It was me and my cousin, and then a couple of friends. I had just met one of these friends, so I didn't know him as well as the other 2. But needless to say, we were renting a house from the one guy that I didn't know as well. Their family kind of had money, and we were renting from his dad. And unfortunately, one night at a party, one of the other roommates could not come up with the money to pay his portion of the rent time. So what he did was he traded a little 25 auto to this individual, one of the other roommates, and to cover the rent. And it was neither me nor my cousin. But at this party, this individual, who really did not have the respect for a firearm that he should have, aside from the fact people are drinking and things at this party, started spinning that around on his finger. Now, it had rounds in the magazine. I had to assume that it had a round in the chamber. I didn't know. But I asked him, being that I was very familiar with firearms, obviously, to stop. He thought he would be cool at this party and didn't want to hear what I had to say. And so he kept doing it. So I pushed him down some stairs and took it from him. Of course, he got embarrassed, and that situation at that party led to the 4 of us splitting up. 2 of the roommates went their own way, got their own apartment, and my cousin and I moved back to my home, and he moved back to his. Now, fast forward, nothing happened. No one got hurt. He got a little embarrassed, but it was his fault. He shouldn't have been playing with a firearm. It was inherently stupid. But fast forward, I think it was 6 months and maybe a year. Just in going our separate ways, I was really close with my cousin, but I had been hanging out in Aurora at the time with a new stepsister and her friends, and really had kind of focused my life out in that area. So I hadn't talked to my cousin in a while. I mean, we talked, I would say about every other week, if not weekly at some point in time, but we hadn't really hung out like we normally do, which was daily. But they had a party at their apartment, and unfortunately, this time around, that individual had possession of a 9mm, and apparently was doing the same thing that he had done at that party, or at the previous party, at the home we were living in, and the firearm went off, and what it did was it hit my cousin in the neck. The round did, and it did end up killing him at this party. And the individual, in his grief, ended up shooting himself as well. Now, obviously, I wasn't there at the time. I remember my father coming in, and the memory serves me right, I was laying in bed, and whatchamacallit, I remember him making a comment as to what had happened and how it affected me. My cousin was like my best friend. He was my brother. But, it was it was a tragic situation. And I know that there were people at that party that had been at the previous party. And because of the way things transpired, and seeing the basic damage that was done to the relationship between the four of us, no one said anything, to my knowledge, at this other party. And that's unfortunate, because had someone had the courage to do what I did, or at least voice their opinion to where it was stupid to spin a firearm around on their finger, it's very possible that my cousin, or God forbid, somebody else, depending on how you change time, the whole time change thing, we see it on the movies, you change one little thing in time, it could adjust something else. So maybe, it changes the whole situation to where everybody goes home. And, that's a rule of thumb I have on job sites. But at that time, it should have been a rule of thumb with everybody involved in that situation. So when I say that courage is something that you need to think about, that's something you should dwell upon, and that it is important, it can be life-saving at times. Do we all deal with those type of situations? No. People surround themselves with all sorts of people. Unfortunately, every now and then you get a retard that does some dumb shit, and you have to deal with it. But at the end of the day, you never know where you're going to be and where that opportunity for courage is going to come into play. And just saying something, you don't always have to do anything, but just saying something can have an impact on a situation. And do you have that courage to be able to do that? Because I'll tell you, if you try to lead by example, you would hope that someone along the way will say, hey, I agree with that, and that's how I want to conduct myself. Unfortunately, nobody did that. Again, I was not at the second party, but, I've had plenty of time to think about it over 30 years, and it still gets me today to where, why not? How could you not? And to be truthful, there's a few people that I do not talk to this day, 30 years later, because I truly blame them for not saying something, for seeing what happened beforehand and not doing it because they knew that they didn't want to be on the bad side of this one individual who basically, he was just a spoiled kid. That's exactly what he was. He was a spoiled brat kid. And he did what he wanted to do, and nobody wanted to be on his bad side, especially after they saw what happened when I did what I did in the previous party that had taken place. So, it is what it is. I was not disgruntled that we all kind of broke up and went our separate ways, but I was very, and I think I've gotten over the anger of it, but I was very angry for the lack of courage that was exhibited by people that night. And unfortunately, people can pay with their lives as a result. In most cases, it's not life-threatening. If you don't have the courage to say something, you may just cost somebody a relationship. It's still a big thing. You may cost an opportunity at your job, employment. Having the courage to stand up for yourself could cost you at a workplace environment, a position at work, or maybe advancement at work. Not being able to have the courage to further an idea you may be having. There's all sorts of opportunities. So this week, I challenge you, think about all the opportunities you have during the week and identify those opportunities for courage, and whether you're taking advantage of those. Are you a courageous person, or do you bury your head in the sand and tuck and run? Do you not speak up even when you agree with someone else who is being courageous and speaking up on something? In this society, we have a lot of instances where, people say you should be one thing or another. And, there's a lot of challenges that we have, and I don't agree with a lot of things that are happening in our society today. I think we have absolutely lost our way. And some of the things that, even when it comes to feminism and things, to where, if you don't agree with something, well, you're a sexist, and it's like, well, no, I'm not. I just don't agree with that one particular thing. But we have this cancel culture, really mob mentality, and it's really a lynch mob mentality, to where if you don't agree with something that a crowd does or multiple people do, well, then you're wrong. We must be right, and we're going to make you out to be the most horrible person in the world because you disagree with us. And that's the mentality that's out there right now. And that is absolutely wrong. So, when we come across these situations, there's a lot of times to where, boy, it's a lot of work to be courageous, because you're going to have to take a beating. It's one of those sayings is the first one through the door always takes the biggest beating. That was on, that's been said throughout time. That was on, what was it, Moneyball? And it's true. When you're a pioneer of something, you're taking the biggest beating. You're going on where no one else has gone. Think about what the pioneers in times of old had to deal with. You had guys on horseback, wagons, canoes, going through places where no roads existed, where no people were, and the people that may have existed there were very dangerous at times. But they dealt with the beatings. They dealt with the, all the things that came their way, the different animals and things that they weren't used to, all these different things. To be a pioneer in this country back in the day, these guys dealt with. And it's absolutely true. The first one through the door is the one who takes the beating. Are you the first one through the door? Are you with the first one through the door, to where you've got their back in taking this meeting because you're going to speak up too. Or maybe you just, turn your head and keep silent and hope that the blows don't hit you. And you're taking cover behind people and just kind of hiding your courage away. But I guess that's my point is what type of person are you? Do you exhibit the character of courage? Sometimes it takes courage to admit you're wrong in something. I know I've had to do that. I've had to admit to a few people, hey, I was wrong. I'm sorry. I've had to do it to my son before. I've had to do it to people at work before. I've had to do it in relationships to where you're like, you know what? I probably didn't approach that the right way. I apologize for that. Or, hey, it was a rough day. Shouldn't have yelled at you. Apologize for that. Or, there's times where it's like, I should be doing more, and I've kind of let some things slip, and I'll get back on track. I apologize for that. Do you have that kind of courage? When you're wrong or when you've missed the mark. So there's all sorts of things that courage dips its finger into in our lives. So how do you deal with that? What do you do? Being able to share, an experience with people, and in hopes that it can have an effect on their lives and they can really see something, or maybe avoid the same pain that you have felt. Well, that can be courageous, I suppose. There's always little opportunities for things when it comes to character in our lives, and how do we deal with that? What do we do? So this week, I challenge you, think about it. Think about what you do in your daily grind and the little opportunities you have for character. And this week, think about the opportunity for courage that you have that exists, and can you and do you have courage? Or maybe it's something you need to work on. Like I said, in this day and age, it's a tough thing to have, because you get villainized real quick when your opinion or your mentality, your thinking is against the norm at times. So, and it takes courage. So, our country and our world, we need more courage. We need more people thinking for themselves, really just being courageous in their everyday lives, and being that individual, not that person that's always in the crowd, not a sheep in the herd, but being that individual, thinking for yourself, being the best person you can be, having the courage to do so. So that being said, I want to thank you all for listening in this week. Hopefully this gets you to think about your week to come, and how you have the opportunities to develop your character, improve the world you live in, improve yourself, improve the people around you, and just really take your life by the horns and pioneer your way through this world. So that being said, I want to thank you, and please like and subscribe. I would love for you all to write in. You'll be anonymous, as I've always said, unless you give me some guidance on something you want to be called. But I would love to hear your thoughts on these discussions and topics. I would love to hear a topic of your own that you would like to discuss. It would really give me some incentive and some drive to really take what you want to talk about and get into it with you and have that discussion. If you want to have a discussion to where I call you up and you can be on this podcast, great. Put that in the email and let me know, and I'll give you a call, and we can work out some of those details and have a back and forth. I would love that. So again, the email's at the bottom of the page. The YouTube link, if you're seeing this on the actual website, nefariouscast.com, go to YouTube, please, and watch that. Use that address, www.youtube.com/@nefariouscast. If you just go searching for it on YouTube, you're going to probably come up with the cast of a movie called Nefarious. They really don't promote your videos, and it's usually the last in line, so you'll have to do some scrolling to find my stuff, because being that this is brand new, they really don't push until you get a lot of views and a lot of the analytics, really the numbers start to build. They really don't promote your videos, so you really have to use that link to get to it. But please watch it there if you have the opportunity. They track the viewing minutes, they track the liking and the subscribing, and that just helps to promote the videos and get them moved up the chain and everything else. So I appreciate everybody who's watching. Thank you for your support week after week. I do appreciate everything that you guys do for this channel. If there's anything you'd like to write in and discuss, please use that Joshua@nefariouscast.com email. I check it a few times a week just to see, and I will absolutely have a discussion with you on this channel. So that being said, I'll see you when I see you. Thanks.